in this country until the 19th of July. Ryanair claims fully vaccinated passengers arriving here this week have been told they might have to stay in quarantine hotels. Finally, Wild Youth, Lyra and Gavin James are just some of the acts performing at a pilot music festival this evening. 3,500 people are in attendance at the festival at the Royal Hospital in Kilmainham. Everyone attending has had to take an antigen test and has been split into pods. The music festival is the first to take place here in Ireland since the pandemic began, and these people say they're happy just to be a part of it.
It's been the longest time ever, so we're absolutely delighted. We got the tickets last minute, so we're just so buzzing and so grateful to be here.
Well, it's like been the equivalent of living under house arrest for the last year and a half, so we're just being given a taste of freedom now and hopefully the sign of better things to come.
It's great, yeah, it's great to be back at it. 3 pints, happy out.
It's 2 minutes past 4.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. School's out. Time for a family holiday in Spain, Italy, Portugal and Greece.
It says westerly airflow bringing showers from the Atlantic to most parts of the country, especially heavy in North Munster, Leinster and Connacht. Highest temperatures of 17 to 20 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions.
This is Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk until 8. John Duggan with you. And you can text us 53106. You can tweet us out Off the Ball. We got a live commentary of every Lions game, including all 3 tests in South Africa. Neil Tracy and Fergus McFadden will call the game against the Sigma Lions. That kicks off in Johannesburg at 5. Just before we talk about it all, just to bring you up to date with what's going on elsewhere. Monaghan won 5 for Mana, 5 points in Ulster in the Ulster Football Championship. Jack McCarron with the goal for Monaghan. Dublin have beaten Galway in Leinster in hurling, 118 to 114. Chris Crumry with the goal in the second half. Chris Crumry for the Dubs. The golf, Lucas Herbert, 16 under par, is leading the third round of the Irish Open at Mount Juliet. He is 3 shots clear of Johannes Veerman of America. So Lucas Herbert leading that one. Not too good for the Irish. Cormac Sharvin is 7 under par. He's in the clubhouse. Graham McDowell 5 under par. Rory McIlroy 4 under par. And Shane Lowry is on 3 under. So a bit of a moderate tournament for the Irish players, but Lucas Herbert of Australia is out in front in that one. And earlier on, we had Ireland beating Japan by 39 points to 31. And our Lions coverage, the 2021 British and Irish Lions Tour on OTB Sports, is brought to you by Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions. Let's build up to kick off for the Sigma Lions game in the company of Fergus and the former Lion, Shane Byrne. 2 proud Leinster lads. Fergus and Shane, good afternoon.
How are we doing?
John, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Hope you're as well, lads. And let's just reflect before we get into the Lions on that win over Japan. 39-31 at Lansdowne Road. Great to see supporters back. Tries by Chris Farrell, Stuart McCluskey, Finlay Beelum, Josh van der Fleer and Jacob Stockdale. Joey Carbery playing his first proper game since the 2019 World Cup, kicking 4 conversions and 2 penalties. Shane, did you have a positive impression after watching it?
I did in the last 20 minutes. It was certainly, you could see the lack of games, lack of international rugby in the first half. Very rusty, a lot of things not working out, not being able to handle the Japan fast game at all. The offloads, the speed that they were playing at. Whenever they broke our defensive line, we were at 6s and 7s. Set piece line out in particular wasn't great. Then it seemed to be there was a chat at half-time. Peter O'Mahony really took a lot of control, as you want your leaders to do. Good impact off the bench. And towards the end of the game, very definitely in control of the game.
And Fergus, did you have a similar impression?
Yeah, I think it was kind of a game of 2 halves, as Shane said there. You know, there was probably a lot of unforced errors from Ireland in the first half, and the weather didn't seem great and things just weren't really clicking. So we're struggling to go through a number of phases, which wasn't really stressing the Japanese defence. But they definitely turned it around in the second half. I think they scored some nice tries in the second half and played some nice rugby. And yeah, they were good in the last 15-20 minutes there.
How do you feel Joey Carbery played? It's been a long time since he's been in green. Fergus?
Yeah, I thought he was reasonably good. His kicking off the tee was solid. That's been very good since he's come back from injury. I think, listen, the team definitely struggled to get into a flow in that first half. But I think Joey did put some nice pieces of play together in the second for sure.
How did the rest of the team do? Who are your standout performers for you, Shane?
I think they picked the right man to match. I think Josh Handler-Fleer had an excellent game, really didn't do anything wrong. I think McCluskey stood up when Farrell went off and Farrell got injured. I think Joey Carbery struggled to get into the game a little bit. I think there was a few loose kicks, a few loose passes, things that you wouldn't expect to come from him. It was good to see Caelan Doris back on good aggressive form. I thought Hugo Keenan had a very good game. I thought right from the off, Japan made their statement very early, the first phase of game. They did a little chip over and he gathered it up, and it was good to see him, where we wanted him to be. They would be the standout to me, but definitely Van der Fleer was the most consistent player right the way throughout the game.
Fergus, Japan, the way they played the game would put a smile on anybody's face.
Yeah, definitely. They were throwing the ball around from everywhere. They're kind of fearless enough, and I think they're a very well-coached side, in fairness. They had beaten us at the World Cup, and I'm sure Andy Farrell was pointing out that they were going to be a really tough task today. So, yeah, they played some lovely rugby. I think a couple of their tries were absolutely brilliant. That crossfield kick they scored in the first half, towards the end of the first half, was outstanding. And then the one in the second half where they nipped down through the 5 metre line, and the 10 Tamura put in a lovely kick as an assist for the winger to score there. So it's some great tries, and it was a nice free-flowing rugby considering the weather.
James Ryan played and he captained the side, Shane. The interview afterwards on RT television, he said he had a few niggles, but he's fit, obviously, because he played. He wouldn't be really drawn on the lines. The body language would tell you probably more than what he said. It's a pity he's not out there.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Massive. It's amazing, him in particular, that one game, that La Rochelle game, really cost him, and how much it appears that he's dropped down the pecking order now, for there to be an injury and he wasn't get out. Bit of uncertainty about his adductor injury and not, but it just seems to be that he has slipped down the pecking order. Fantastic player. I didn't think had a brilliant game. A few moments today, where he stood out, but also a few, bad calls in the line-outs, a few little processes that didn't go exactly his way. But, look, there's no doubt a guy like that would thrive in that scenario in the Lions. I think he would, no matter how he would get out there, he would end up, doing super out there.
Who needs to play against the USA in your view now, Shane? Who needs to come in? Gavin Coombs, perhaps?
Yeah, Gavin Coombs has to start. I wanted to see him come off the bench a lot earlier, and I would suspect that he would have come off the bench, except the recovery by Ireland was so pivotal around Peter O'Mahony in what he was doing. I would say the plan was to get Coombs onto the pitch a lot earlier. Great for his first cap. He's done that. He's broke the duck on that. As Fergus and all internationals know, the first cap is the big one. You just need to get that done. And I would hope that he starts. Casey as well. We really want to see these guys brought in. Japan was a worry, because the last time we played them, they beat us, and they beat us properly. We were doing whatever we could. And so we had to put a mixture of experience and you guys in this one. And I would hope against the USA, all of these guys, Caelan Blaze and all these guys, get a start or at least get a lot of game time.
I suppose psychologically we needed to beat Japan. It's not your normal warm-up game in a way, Fergus, given what happened in Japan at the World Cup.
Definitely, yeah. I think people forget, how much Japan have come on. They're a really, really well-coached side. They've probably got some players that some people aren't really familiar with, but you could see today that 10, the two wingers, all their backline are outstanding players. They've got Leach, the captain, who's a brilliant player. I saw one of his stats was, I think it was 70 caps and 20 tries. It's pretty impressive for a back row. So some really exciting players. They play a lovely brand of rugby, and it was definitely a test for some of those younger guys, but great to see the likes of Gavin Coombs getting his first test cap today, and hopefully his parents are in the crowd.
Shane Byrne, have you made peace yet with this 05 Lions tour?
No. Well, no. Listen, it's. I'm still very aware that it was an amazing thing it was on. It just, unfortunately, it didn't work out. But listen, when I would think of what they're experiencing now at the moment, it still brings butterflies. It's an absolutely amazing experience. It really is. It's running into the first game. Okay, the game before you go away. That's brilliant to get first time to get the jersey on for the tour, and it's very important. And it was great that all the Irish guys got good game time because it's the first chance to show your wares. But the first game on tour is special. It really is, because that's the real thorough kickoff on the tour. You're now at it. You're now down to business. So everybody will be very excited for this game.
So you started the first and the third tests against New Zealand in 2005. You played in the second one as well. How do you reflect on the experience now, 16 years on? I'm sure you've gone through a myriad of emotions, but what has settled in terms of your reflection now?
We see. I can't release the what could have been, but I'm very, very aware that I'm a very lucky guy to experience what I did and to achieve what I did. Because what happens to you when you get out there is that, look, you're wrapped up in the whole emotion of being a Lion, and once that settles, and once you get out there, the old professionalism kicked in, and you need to get onto that test team. So you're driven to do that, and that's a lot of what these guys will be settling in to do. Very, very aware that they've a short space of time to really put their wares down and get going at it. And that's the same way it was in 2005. Okay, there was a monstrous squad of players and very much disjointed in the way we didn't have the camaraderie that all the other tours before and after have had. And, that's one thing that was sorely lacking on that tour. But it's still the same. It's still thorough professionals wanting to excel. And just because you're on the lines doesn't mean you sit back and wait. You want to play well. You want to get on that test team. That's what it's all about.
There were so many things that went wrong, like changing the line-out calls being one of them that impacted you.
Yeah, that was an absolute nightmare. I was calling the line-outs at the time, and it dawned on me from a meeting I had just about the week, probably the Monday, going into the first test. And I went, oh my God, they're going to change the line-out calls. You see, what happened was there was suspect that New Zealand had got our calls, and there was a flip screen left with an imprint of writing on it. So they thought they had our calls. So I thought this was a crazy idea. I said, all we have to do, like, if we still call well and execute, it doesn't matter. It'll still work. But they changed it. So running into we had to come up with a completely new set of calls, and it so didn't work. The line-out was an absolute disaster in the first game. I remember calling the first line-out and looking down the line to the guy who was receiving the ball, and totally blank. I knew he didn't know I was about to throw the ball to him. And I was like, oh, here we go. A long day starting.
41 seconds as well when Brian O'Driscoll got that spear tackle from Tanu Maga and Kevin Mialamu. To me, I think it's disgusting. I think what happened personally, our best player was taken out. How much did it unsettle you as a whole group?
It's a strange thing on the park because you're when you're in a rugby scenario like a test rugby, you're always up for adversity. You use it, you push against it constantly, and when that happened, it was very much get together and okay, lads, let's just it's gone, it's happened. We just get on with the game, and it had a huge ripple effect throughout the team. It was very disjointed. Look, Brian was at his peak of his powers at the time, and it just had a ripple around the team. And also, you're in an amazing All Black team with Dan Carter, again another guy playing as well as he's probably ever played, and they took control of the game, and we just couldn't claw it back. And that was the problem. And there was no one really stood up to go as a leader, just go, look, guys, this is what we need to do. So it was a shame what happened to him. Yeah, but it wasn't malicious, I suppose, in that instance. Like the two guys, Tana and
Mialamu,
Mialamu, they didn't go, right, at this moment we're going to pick him up and we're going to do this. If Brian had put his arm here as opposed to here, his arm wouldn't have dislocated. There was a lot of things like that in it. What was a shame was what happened afterwards. The power of New Zealand was demonstrated throughout World Rugby. All the the power that they went in around it, that the guy should have been suspended. There was no doubt about it. Like, okay, rules were completely different then as to now. There would have been no debate now. But the simple fact is that, you know, what happened was foul play, and they should have been suspended for however long. It didn't matter, but they weren't. And that unfortunately brought the battens down even more around the 05 side and the team, and that was a mistake too. We should have talked about it an awful lot more. And it was. We had our chances after that. You know, the second test started very well. We let that slip too. Third test, we could have. There was an instance where Duggan, I think, was thundering for the line, and one more offload might have had us at a very pivotal moment of the game. There were chances, but unfortunately wasn't to be.
We're talking to Shane Byrne and Fergus McFadden ahead of our commentary of the Lions against the Sigma Lions from 5 o'clock with Fergus and Neil Tracy. Just doing a reminiscing on 05 when Shane Byrne was there as hooker for the Lions against New Zealand. Shane, we know all about the Alistair Campbell and the massive party and the single rooms and all that. But when things start going south, do people start arguing? Is there recriminations? Do you get divided into camps among the countries? Does it all just get very bitter?
Yeah, it was when I heard Robertson, one of the coaches, ringing back to people in England asking for advice and stuff like that on things like lineouts and stuff. I was just like, you know, that's ridiculous. People reverted back to type. You see, that's where you had, because of the single room scenario, you know, you've an awful lot of time by yourself when you should have been talking with people and getting it out there. So guys forming opinions that probably weren't correct. And, you know, it didn't help the atmosphere throughout the squad. And at that time, leading into that, there was a big push. If he made an error in it, that he promised everybody on the squad that you'd have enough, everybody would have the same amount of game time before the tests. And that was a mistake, because he actually tried to do it honourably. He tried to do it. And it ended up that the test side was never even remotely close together before the first test. It was just pulled together, and he ended up reverting back, you know, a lot to old World Cup winners. And if you remember, in 05, Wales had won the Grand Slam running into that. And there was a very much, remember, there was the midweek team, and they were doing well, and they were having good results, and there was a whole atmosphere around that, the midweek massive, and a lot of the Welsh players were pushing that. And unfortunately, that's just added to the bit of the riff. So therefore, when it didn't work out in the first test, it was pull down the curtains on that, get mainly the Welsh lads in, and, you know, make a heap of changes where there should have been a backbone of it throughout. And unfortunately, you know, it just ended up, you know, going in all directions as opposed to everybody tuned into the one thing.
This should be the time of your life then, Shane. Is it then a lonely time? You're away from your family. You might be a bit fed up.
Yeah, well, if you remember, I was out of a job as well at the time. I had no club, and right at that time. So yeah, it was an odd time, all right. Not an odd time, or not a time you wanted to be sitting in a room staring at the four walls. But that's it. Like, there's no woe is me at it. You know what I mean? You're still very aware. Like, no matter how much I look at that back with the professional eyes and the critiquing about yourself and what could have been and why didn't you do this and that, you were still aligned. It was still an absolutely amazing experience, something that, you know, I can relive. And, you know, thankfully I've been out with classic tours on every Lions tour up until this one, and just seeing the mass of people, like the 30, 40, 50,000 supporters following this team around from the four countries. It is just an experience like no other. And it's an awful pity that this year's event is the way it is, surrounded by horrendous cases of COVID. I would have loved to seen it postponed until next year so that it could have been a proper tour again.
Absolutely, Shane. Fergus, you would have shared a dressing room with Conor Murray. He would have been an opponent. It's a special time for him. It's a very proud time for him to be captaining the Lions. What are his attributes? What will he bring to the table as a potential leader?
Yeah, it's the biggest honour I think anyone can be given. I'm absolutely delighted that Conor got it. I think he'll be the type of leader that will have to draw on the experiences he's probably had on the couple of tours he's been on with the Lions before this. he's definitely not the sort of leader that is we've got banging his chest and trying to get guys, ready to run through a wall. He's very composed. I think he'd be very clear in his messaging, and I think he'll probably try and lead by the way he plays.
Ronan O'Gara speaking, Fergus, about the pressure that could come on if they lose the first test, and we heard Shane there speaking about that it can get a bit entrenched if things start going wrong. That cool head is going to be very crucial, and also things like the kicker he's with, do we kick for goal, do we kick to touch, that kind of thing. You'll need to have a good relationship with the kicker or Owen Farrell if that's at number 12.
Yeah, well, not so sure Owen Farrell will be starting with the way that Bundy Akey played the last day. So he'll certainly have to play well today to secure himself a spot in the test side. But yeah, whoever is kicking, it looks like Dan Biggar from last week's performance, unless Finn Russell can do something outstanding, will probably be a favourite to start at 10. And I think, Conor and Biggar having a good relationship in general about, how they're going to manage the game. And then, picking the times to go for posts. I think you need to have a good place kicker in these test series. 3 points can be the winning or losing in a game. So the high kicking percentage will be huge. So Dan Biggar will be very important.
Captaincy for you with Conor Murray. What are the do's and don'ts, Shane, from what you've seen and what you're observing?
Yeah, well, I think it was like we all were caught a bit from left field at that, thinking that the Hoggs and the Farrells, these guys who would captaincy had been with them for a long time, were all going to be picked. But I think Warren probably has done it well again, because Conor's extremely popular. What you need from a captain on a Lions tour is, a guy who gets on well, because that's so important to everything, is getting all the players getting on with each other and who's popular without it and are with everybody. And Conor is that. That was one thing that anyone who's been interviewed has been at pains to point out, that he's a really popular guy. And as Fergus knows, like, he's a easygoing guy, just gets on with his business, and that lends and tends himself to a calm demeanour. And listen, he's a 3-time Lions tourist, which is an amazing thing to say. There's so few people can say that, and I think when you're looking for leadership, it's just that experience sometimes counts, because you always get different types of captains. We all know there's the guys who can inspire you with the words, there's the guys who inspire you by examples. That'd be the Paul O'Connell and the Brian O'Driscolls. And Conor is the other type that just everyone gets on, everyone listens to what he's saying, and just when things are going rough, a few nice, calm words put in the right way from Conor Murray could be the difference.
53106 if you want to ask Shane Byrne or Fergus McFadden a question. Was that your experience, Fergus, in the Irish dressing room, that Conor would maybe step in at a moment and say the right thing?
I think he was never the biggest talker for me. I think he'd talk during the week, during meetings. He'd be one of those, he'd be always in the leadership group with Joe Schmidt and now with Andy Farrell. So in some ways it was probably a bit of a surprise for people across the water anyway, that maybe Conor got called in as captain. But I think it just shows how high in esteem Gatland holds him in. So I've no doubt it'll go very well for the guy. I think it should go well for him, yeah.
We got Fergus and Neil Tracy on commentary for the match against the Sigma Lions at 5 o'clock. Fergus, look at the team selection. Finn Russell at 10, possibly the most interesting selection today. He's a maverick. What will Warren Gatland be looking for from Finn?
I think he'll be probably looking for a bit of structure. I think what Finn Russell brings to the table, as opposed to Dan Biggar, is obviously that spark and something different, and he's got the ability to pull a rabbit out of a hat. But to beat the South Africans in South Africa, I think you're going to have 2 halfbacks that have strong game management. And I think that's probably always been the area that has been a question mark over for Finn Russell. So I think he'll have to guide the team around the pitch well today to try and impress there. And
do you think that his ability, I think, Shane, to do something out of the blue is something that we need in this test series, Finn Russell?
Do you know what? I would love to think, I would love to be able to think this is a Lions tour that could use a guy like Finn Russell. That these kind of guys could excel in it, because we all know, regardless of anything, he's exciting to watch. You know that something special could happen. Now, but Fergus has it exactly right, though. It's so important that you have a game manager there, somebody who, you know, when things are going wrong, to steer the ship, because there's a lot of lack of familiarity with these guys, and you've got to trust these people, even though you haven't played with them for very long. I think from what we saw last week, Biggar certainly has the hands up. It would take a very good performance by the other out halves to get ahead of him. But I think the biggest thing that's going to signify or define this test series is going to be the impact off the bench. And I would love to think Biggar starting and someone like Russell definitely coming off the bench. I think it would be a fantastic addition to it. And I'd like to think that they're playing a kind of game that would allow for that, would allow for his, you know, unknown what exactly he's going to do, but it fits well into the way that they're playing. And this as well with Stuart Hogg, like he has a little bit of that as well. He's not your textbook 15. And I would love to think that this test series shows rugby like that. It'd be great to see.
Owen Farrell is at 12, as we just touched upon Fergus there, Shane. Do you see him starting the tests? Yeah,
I do, yeah. I think Bundy Aki might have given him a bit of a fright there at the weekend, because, you know, he played really well. And Bundy, you know, would have gone out there, particularly from the guys across the water, would have considered him to be, you know, a one-trick pony of sorts, very, very physical. But there's so much more to his game, as we all know. And but I think the Biggar Farrell and Henshaw combination, you know, and Adam Murray in there is very, very strong. I think when it comes to test, when pressure's on, Farrell has shown himself time and time again. He's well able for that, and his game management is there.
Does he have the advantage, in your view, Fergus, over Bundy at the moment in that centre partnership?
Owen Farrell?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. I think obviously he's a tourist with the Lions before, and he's held in high esteem with Gatland because he was outstanding on the last one particularly. But he hasn't been playing his best rugby for probably around a year now, and he has been, you know, playing in the championship with Saracens. So this will be his first big test for quite a while. So I'll be interested to see how he goes. I think Bundy Aki put in a great marker last week, and I think if that's what Gatland is looking for, that really direct 12 who's going to hit people behind the gain line in defence as well, you know, he could be a good option there. So I definitely think Farrell needs to put in a very big performance today to maybe make Gatland's mind up there.
Because Robbie Henshaw is pretty much nailed on, isn't he, Fergus, to start those tests?
He is, yeah, and it's interesting how, you know, he played his best rugby at 12 over the past kind of 12 months for club and country, but I think it shows just how good a player he is. You can move him out to 13, and he brings just something different. He's got that carry, but he's also got beautiful hands that probably people don't actually give him that much credit for, because he's very much an up and down 12 with Ireland and sometimes with Leinster, but he's a great distributing option at 13, I think, and you know, arguably it's his best position.
OK, we got to take a break. Fergus McFadden and Shane Byrne. We're building up to our commentary of the Lions against the Sigma Lions in Johannesburg at 5 o'clock with Neil Tracy and Fergus. Every single Lions commentary is on Off the Ball here on News Talk on Saturdays and on Wednesdays as well, the midweek games. It's Kilkenny 1 point, Wexford no score in the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship. Dublin have beaten Galway 118 to 114. A shock there in the Leinster semi-final, with Dublin now into the Leinster final. Galway back to the drawing board for them. Limerick and Cork a 7 o'clock throw-in at Semple Stadium. Ireland 39, Japan 31 earlier on in that match at Lansdowne Road. Back after the break with more from Shane Byrne and Fergus McFadden as we build to our commentary of the Lions.
Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions. Debt and financial struggles aren't something we usually like to talk about, but there's often a manageable solution. So this weekend on News Talk, we've teamed up with the ISI for some practical advice and tips. The ISI's debt solutions are legally binding arrangements and have agreed timelines. This means that the terms cannot be changed without the agreement of both parties, so there will be no surprise changes or amendments to the terms along the way. Creditors aren't able to contact you with demands for payment while your arrangement is in place. Find out more at newstalk.com/tips.
An outdoor summer means we can explore all that our beautiful island has to offer. But with that comes responsibility. Littering and illegal dumping blights our countryside, hurts our wildlife, and ruins our streets and beaches. Ireland, we can all play a part. No littering, no illegal dumping. It's our country, our waste. Bin it or bring it home. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Why not check out the Boyle Sports betting app for a full range of markets on shots on target, assists, passes and more on every match of the Euros, all powered by Opta. Rated 4.5 stars on the App Store, you'll find all our latest odds and offers for the Euros. So remind us where to go, Stevie G.
Boyle Sports. This is betting.
18 plus, bet responsibly, gamblingcare.ie.
Over 800,000 people tune into News Talk every week. They tune in to listen. They're engaged, interested. Maybe even interested in your business. Whether you're selling to customers, to businesses, selling online, or getting ready to reopen, your next customer could be listening right now. If you'd like to talk to them, talk to us. Email advertising@newstalk.com.
The Tile Style sale with 40% off almost all tiles and 20% off bathrooms and wood flooring ends this Sunday. It's your last chance for incredible savings on the latest collections, including Porcelanosa and Cars of Sweden. Don't miss out. Shop in store or online at tilestyle.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
See your man over there? He's an awful spanner. Bit of a tool, is he? No, his spanner. Look at the state of it. Poor fella's van was robbed last week. Lost his best tools. Insurance didn't cover it. Now he's barely anything left. God, should have used Aricus.
At Aricus, we cover theft of tools should your van be broken into. For van insurance that goes the extra mile, visit aricus.ie today. Click and you're covered.
Aricus Corporate Brokers Limited, trading as Aricus, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
You're at the edge of the world, atop a mountainous cliffside trail on the Causeway coastal route, with an everlasting horizon stretching out to sea beyond. Behind you, the ruins of Dunluce Castle. Below you, gigantic crashing waves. You think, we're never going to forget a view like this. Sure, if we want, we could be back up next weekend. Book your next family getaway at discovernorthernireland.com. Northern Ireland, a small step to a giant adventure.
When planning and visiting, please check visitor guidelines and opening times with individual providers. Always follow current COVID-19 travel restrictions. Available at nidirect.gov.uk.
Chris Pratt stars in the Amazon original movie, The Tomorrow War.
We are fighting a war 30 years in the future. Our enemy is not human.
The fight for tomorrow begins.
Do you want to see something really dangerous?
I feel like that's all I've been doing since I got here, but okay.
Experience the movie event of the summer.
Oh my God.
Die! Did you tell it to die? Yeah. Why didn't you tell it sooner?
The Tomorrow War, rated 12A, now streaming only on Prime Video.
Beko newest refrigeration technology, Harvest Fresh, helps to preserve vitamins in fruit and vegetables, keeping them fresher for longer. For more information, go online to powercity.ie or call in store today.
Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions.
You're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 8 o'clock because we're so excited to be showcasing commentary of every Lions game on News Talk. Neil Tracy and Fergus McFadden providing the call on the match with the Sigma Lions. That kicks off in Johannesburg at 5 o'clock, the 2021 British and Irish Lions Tour on OTB Sports, brought to you with Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions. Continuing our build-up now with Fergus and Shane Byrne. Just to give you some scores as well from the rest of the sporting world. It is Monaghan 113, Fermanagh 8 points now in Ulster. Jack McCarron with the goal for the Farney earlier on, and it looks like they'll have enough to beat Fermanagh. It is now Kilkenny 2 points, Wexford 2 points in Leinster. Dublin have defeated Galway 118 to 114. A shock there in the Leinster semi-final. It is Limerick and Cork from 7 o'clock. Lucas Herbert of Australia still out in front in the third round of the Irish Open. And Mount Juliet 15 under par to Johannes Veerman's 13 under. Not a great tournament for the Irish. Cormac Sharvin 7 under par. Graham McDowell 5 under. We had Rory McIlroy finishing his third round on 4 under par and Shane Lowry on 3 under. Ireland have beaten Japan 39 to 31 in that test match. at Lansdowne Road. Shane Byrne, the Hauteng Lions, this will be such a great day for them. They'll be playing for their lives. They will want to maybe not win, but inflict definitely an impact on the Lions today, the British and Irish Lions.
Well, listen, hopefully they don't inflict as much damage as Japan did on the tour squad. Yeah, listen, this is the traditional starting game, not the toughest game they're going to have by any stretch of the imagination. They've won only one game in their version of the Rainbow Cup, and one game in what was the Super Rugby that they were playing, obviously messed up because of COVID. So no, they're definitely the weakest of the teams that they're going to meet, on the tour. But it's very important, I think, it's the manner of how the Lions play against them, because these guys will be out, as you say. I suppose a lot of people don't think about it, is that the Lions touring, whenever which of the three countries it's huge for these teams. It was absolutely massive, and there's a guy missing out today on the chance to be one of the guys who played against him twice, having a career that lasted more than 12 years. And, so it means a hell of a lot. So these guys will take this game very, very seriously. And there's not a lot of internationals in their squad even. And there won't be a lot of players who but they will be putting everything they can into this game. And, if there's an opportunity, they'll take it.
Did you play any of the matches against the touring teams, or was it just the tests then, Shane, in 05?
I know I did. I played 7 games in total, and we played against, as we were touring around. They're playing their. It seems to be form previous to that doesn't really count, because you're trying to do some sort of analysis on them, and on the day it never really counts for much, because they are playing at their absolute best.
And fierce in the front row, I'd expect.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, for sure. You wouldn't want it any other way.
Fergus, have you spoken to any of the lads who were down in South Africa that you would have known?
Not since they left. No, not since they left. I texted a few of them and expressed my delight the fact that a number of them had made it. Talking to Robbie Henshaw, and just really delighted that he actually got down there in one piece, because once he got picked, I was just worried. He's the type of player that he puts everything into every game, no matter whether it's a Rainbow Cup game or it's a game today, or a test match in a few weeks' time. So I was very happy he just got down there, along with the likes of Shane Byrne and Jack Conan, who've been rewarded for some great form. So listen, I think not many Irish guys involved today, but I think they put a lot of them, if not all of them, put their hands up last week. They really did. I think a few of them could be in the running to start in the test matches.
Who are we talking about here? We're talking about Tyg Furlong, we're talking about Robbie, we're talking about Conor Murray. Anybody else that you think might be potentially a starter?
Well, I think Tyg Byrne, he's a great option at 6, because he's another really athletic line-out jumper. I think you saw that line he ran for his try last week was lovely. He's extremely quick. Naturally a second row for Munster, but played an awful lot of his rugby at 6 during the Six Nations and was outstanding there. So I think he could potentially be a bit of a bolter, because sometimes you see that the tour, the list of the touring squad, you go, he's going to be a midweek player, and people might have thought that about Tyg, but I think from his performance last week, you saw that he is going to put whoever they had at the potential 6 jersey under massive pressure, and be interesting to see how the guys go today now.
And it's Courtney Lawes at number 6 today.
Yeah, Courtney Lawes is 6 today, and again, maybe that's what they're looking for in the 6 jersey. If they tried Tyg last week and they're trying Courtney Lawes there this week, they're both second rows for their club a lot of the time, and sometimes for a country. So maybe they're looking for a bigger 6, a taller 6 that can be more of a line-out option. Courtney Lawes is a brilliant 6 as well. So, but he'll have it all to do to perform as well as Tyg last week. I thought he was one of the best players last week, definitely.
It's very much an English flavour to the pack today, isn't it? Shane, Courtney, as Fergus was saying there, Jamie George, Cos Sinclair, Maro Itoje, Johnny Hill.
Yeah, well, look, I suppose it has to happen because they reckon the Premiership is the most important competition that there is. It goes on for extra weeks, and it's after it goes on further past Europe, which is crazy. But anyway, yeah, like it's going to be the flavour of it for this and the next game, mostly with English pairings, and it's just the way it's going to be. But I think Tadhg Byrne is really one of the guys that you have to have a strong discussion about on this, because he offers so much more. He reminds me with his running game, like Stephen Ferris, which I think was 12 years ago. He had the same impact. Fortunately, didn't make the tests. He got injured. But if you play Tadhg Byrne at 6, covering second row, you on the bench, if you remember, I'm thinking that the impact off the bench is going to be immense in this test series. You can have a complete back row sitting on the bench with the likes of, say, Curry and Simmons on the bench. Like the impact, and Navidi, the impact guys like that could have on a test coming off as a complete, and you put Tadhg Byrne into the second row on that. I think he's very much in Warren Gatlin's plan is to have him involved.
Is it all about physicality when it comes to South Africa, Fergus? They'll have to mix it up surely as well and have a bit of imagination to win this test series.
Yeah, massively. I think you do need to match them physically or get as close to that as possible. I think, the set piece is going to be huge. I think, the three Englishmen that have been picked in the front row today, there's Wyn Jones from Wales is the loose head, but Sinclair and Jamie George, Sinclair called up late. Jamie George, some people question should he have gone. I think those guys have toured before. They'll really be looking to put pressure on the likes of Tadhg Furlong, who seems like a nailed on starter. So couple of really interesting combinations. It's going to be interesting to see, how much of a flow they can get into, because really it's the second match. But these players they have been together for a number of weeks. But you could see last week, rolling into the last maybe 20 minutes of the match, they definitely lost their structure, and the Japanese started to probably break them down a little bit more, and we're certainly better in attack. So it's just going to be interesting to see how quickly these guys gel here, because a lot of different combinations, a lot of nerves. Some guys, on their first tour and playing on the home soil of South Africa. So it's going to be a very exciting one.
How tough is it to gel, Shane?
Yeah, it's very tough. It's in those last minutes, as Fergus would know well, when your back is against the wall and you need to scrape a win out of somewhere, or else you're defending a lead and you're just trusting that automatic trust you have in a guy that you know so well. It takes time to get that together. So, but that's why so much is, you always see any of the photo calls written are coming from the Lions, or the social media stuff is all about them doing stuff, bonding out. Have we seen them kayaking? We've seen them playing golf. All of these things are built around getting to know each other and getting them to just be really comfortable and friendly in each other's company, and that's all part of it. But that's what comes together, and it's going to be a strange one. They can't just go out and about, obviously, because of COVID. They're going to be living in their bubble. But hopefully that little bit of adversity, really strengthens them and bonds them up as quickly as we can. They've had a bit of a, obviously, Alwyn Jones was the real, I suppose, he was always the obvious choice as captain, because he was the last of the stalwart captains that was, potentially available. And so that's been a bit of a surprise, a ripple to the squad. But now, hopefully, they're galvanising around Connor, and that's helping it all come together. All of these bonds really, really count when it comes to the tests.
The players will need to have themselves a plan, won't they, Fergus, to be occupied? Because, it is a first world problem. It is 5-star hotels. It is lovely flights out there, but the cabin fever is something that will have to be negotiated.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's going to be a challenge. I think they're going to have to get pretty inventive with the social committee and whatever kind of quizzes or games and bit of crack they try and create inside, because we've all read about the cases that are soaring over in South Africa, so no chances can be taken really. So yeah, it's going to be tough. But as Shane said there, maybe that'll be used as something to kind of galvanise them, and they'll be around each other more. I'm sure they'll be under each other's noses a bit more than normally, be able to go out for a coffee normally or a bit of food or something. But I'm sure they've got something in place where it'll make it a bit easier for the guys, as you said there, first world problems.
How did you manage boredom, Fergus?
How did I manage boredom?
Yeah.
On what front?
If you were like in a test scenario, or you're with Ireland, or you're in a camp, for example, like that.
Yeah, I think in normal times, obviously, you'd be able to go out and really with long camps, particularly Six Nations camps, that is very important, because you're in the same environment that you're working in the whole time. So getting out of that is good to clear your headspace. So it'll be a challenge, but it'll be, that's going to be a challenge for the South African guys as well. Like, they're going to be under the same rulings. So it's about which kind of group of players kind of uses it to their strength, as opposed to uses it as an excuse, really.
40 points to 9 win over Georgia. South Africa, we haven't really seen them since the World Cup, Shane. Where do you think they're at? 3 positive tests. Obviously, there's a really stark situation down there at the moment in Gauteng. It's hard to know where South Africa, to gauge where they're at ahead of this series.
Yeah, it's very hard. Like, you're speaking from a local point of view. If you're saying it, yeah, the COVID cases it's sweeping through over there. So, like, obviously that's gone. That's friends and family to players in the squad. So look, I'm sure they're not immune to that. But again, very much like this is that unlike where it's normally the advantage of home and being able to have your home comforts and being able to travel around and do what you want and all your familiar things. They don't have that this time. So they're almost, okay, they know each other, so they don't have to get over that. But they're almost in the same scenario as the Lions, is that they are in a bubble as well. They are locked up. They can't go out and do the things, go to the cinema, the flicks, or, head down to the local restaurant, get something to eat or whatever. They can't do it. And so it's going to be the same for them. And, okay, yeah, look, we know they're test rugby. They haven't played in ages. But like Japan, in flashes, they're probably a lot better than we expected them to be yesterday and last week against the Lions. They put some good rugby together. So they've still a long time to go before they start hitting the test, another 2-3 weeks. I would expect them to be very dangerous. But I do think the plan A is still going to be the same. I don't think that's probably the thing that they won't have the chance to get together, the creativity that they do have, because, look, we know they have amazing talents out the backs. But South Africa traditionally, their plan A is to take you on up front, and their plan B is plan A, but just do it harder. That's the way South Africa traditionally have always played. They still have the amazing skill set, but they love the physical confrontation. They love taking you on, and that's what they will do. And that's what the team, now that they're on South African soils, the games will get harder as they go up towards the tests, and that's one thing they're going to have to get ready for.
It's Wexford 8 points, Kilkenny 6 points in the Leinster Hurling Championship semi-final. Dublin have already beaten Galway by 118 to 114. Bundy Aki and Ian Henderson are on the bench. Fergus, they should see some game time, and it's another chance for Ian Henderson to show what he can do for Warren.
Yeah, Ian Henderson was outstanding last week as well, and he's another guy that you could move into the debate around. He can cover 6 as well. He has done for Ireland a number of times. So that spot on the bench for the second row on the bench or back row, whoever it's going to be, is going to be very, very competitive, as will the starting places. But it'll be very important, as Shane said, because the impact coming off the bench could be the deciding of the test series, certainly some of the games in the latter stages. So, very impressed by him last week. I think his stats were through the roof. I think he had something like close to 20 carries, and he's playing some great rugby, in fairness. He really is. So, it'll be interesting to see how the other guys, Johnny Hill, Atoje, will be, frothing at the mouth now to go. He's such a competitor, in fairness, and a real driver of standards in that English team. And after touring before, I'm sure he'll be kind of used as a kind of leader on this tour as well.
Spark will be crucial. Shane, Lewis Rees-Zammit is coming in today. He's somebody that is exciting.
Absolutely. Picking my test start, I have him in the test team. I think he's a fantastic player. I really do. I think the things that he's shown the things that he's done well, he's done exceptionally well. And I really do think, as you say, that he has a spark. He has an eye for a try. He makes the right decision at the right time. Yes, he doesn't have a huge amount of experience. He's fresh enough on the international circuit, but, you know, the Lions is different. You know, if you excel in that little microcosm that's there, you can just be a superstar all of a sudden. And I think he has everything that you need for that. And surround him, you know, I'd love to see Hogg start a test series, and potentially with the likes of Finn Russell, these guys, just with that X factor, because, you know, you're going to have to need it. Still a Lions test series, you're going to have to do something special to win it.
You know these positions very well. What's your verdict on him so far, Fergus, what you've seen? Zammit?
Henri Zammit?
Yeah.
Oh, I actually couldn't get over how calm. You know, people have been talking about him for quite a while with some of the performances he's been putting in with Gloucester, but what has stood out to me, because, you know, some players show real spark at club level, but it's a different type of pressure playing in Six Nations games, starting in Six Nations games, and the guy just took it in his stride. He was outstanding during the entire competition, and was Wales. He was the Welsh standout back for sure. So I think, yeah, he's in the driving seat to nail down one of the wing spots, and I'm sure he'll be providing plenty of spark today.
Shane, what's the verdict? Is this going to be a comfortable win? It's more about the performances and who makes the impact, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got it exactly right there. Yes, it should be a comfortable win. Anything else is unthinkable. You don't want anything like that to happen. So it's all about performances. And ironically, you know, Fergus has talked about it before, you know, with using Bundy as an example. There's now actually pressure on a lot of these English players, because the Pro 14 team, which essentially it was last week, because that team did very well, and a lot of particular players did well, these guys have to hit the ground running. They really do. And they have to make an impression very, very early in the game to, you know, start being comfortable. And this will add to the pressure. But it's going to be, no doubt about it, it's going to be a Lions win.
Okay, Shane Byrne, thanks so much. We're going to get your verdict on this match after the full-time whistle with Fergus. Live commentary of the Lions against the Sigma Lions with Neil Tracy and Fergus McFadden is coming up. Just to let you know, it's Wexford 10 points, Kilkenny 8 in the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship. We're back in a moment.
Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions. This weekend on News Talk, we've teamed up with the Insolvency Service of Ireland to offer insight and advice on debt and financial struggles. Find out how the ISI can help at newstalk.com/tips.
Trade up and save with Bosch at Power City. For a limited time, claim up to €100 cashback on selected Bosch kitchen appliances. To find out more, go online to powercity.ie or call in store today.
Afternoons are easy with insuremyvan.ie, Ireland's low-cost van insurance specialist. Get your business back on the road with Insure My Van's best price guarantee. For super savings, visit insuremyvan.ie. City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as insuremyvan.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Ah, the weekend. A time for DIY. For improving a hobby. Or a time to escape with the Sunday Independent Life magazine. Everyone's got their weekend planned, and you've got your weekend escape. Pick up your copy of the Life magazine in the Sunday Independent. Up close and independent.
At Betfair, we know how it feels when you're in the moment, in the heat of the match, and you decide to hit cash out. Only to find cash out is suspended and you're frozen out of your bet. That's why when you bet fair this Euros, you can cash out when you want, with no suspensions on match odds. We won't freeze you out of your bet, because we're Betfair.
Applies to sportsbook match odds markets on Euro Elite Football. Excludes free bets, exchange bets, bet builder, odds on that and bet settlement window. T's and C's apply. 18+. See gamblingcare.ie. Please gamble responsibly.
This is On Post Commerce. This is doing business